Just so everybody knows. There we are. Hello. Hello and welcome to Force Connect, part of the streaming Star Wars network, our live Friday night Star Wars hangout, hanging out with you, our viewers, our listeners, the people that we love to hear from on Friday evenings. I am here with my good friends, Chris and Nick. Nick, how are you doing, my friend? How are things? How's life?
Life is lifey, but you
All
know
right.
what? That's not always a bad thing. A little bit of
Okay.
good, a little bit of bad. The good
All right.
news is it's Friday. We've made it to this moment in our timeline, whether it's a concurrent timeline, another thing. We're here, we're having drinks, and we're talking Star Wars, not only with the two of you people who I adore and cherish and have come to become some of my favorite people in my life, but we've got people in the live chat, friends hanging out. We know we've got some friends calling in to talk tonight because everybody has big thoughts. Because guess what? We're still getting 2 Star Wars shows a week. What do I have to complain about?
Two big episodes as well. Chris, how are you doing, man?
You know, I'm on the same level as Nick on here. So, you know, with life, you take the good, you take the bad, you take
Facts
them
of
both.
life.
And there you go.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to work that into next week's intro somehow.
If you get that reference, you belong here. That's just it.
Oh my gosh, oof, no, I'm not even going to go there. There's so many things, so many things that will get me canceled that I won't even go for it. But hey, guys, listen, we had this was another, like last week we got 2 episodes and we're like, hey, that was great. Those were killer episodes. And then this week where it's like both Bad Batch and Mandalorian upped the ante to no end. Like, holy cow, both shows were fantastic. We're going to try to get to both. I know we have some people calling in with some thoughts on what we saw, what we got going on. But before we get into the conversation, Nick, do you want to raise a toast as you do every single week?
I would love to raise a toast as I do every single week. And I'll be perfectly honest with all of our friends watching at home. I haven't put a ton of extra thought into our toast this week. Again, life has been very lifey, and I am actually going to raise my glass to
John Williams.
My shirt, not my shirt specifically. I'm going to raise my shirt to being a shill. And I'm going to throw a thing out there. There's discourse. There's people that have shown up online recently who went away and came back. Here's the thing. You don't have to listen to them. You don't have to follow them. You can block them. They don't have to be a part of your Star Wars experience. The point of Star Wars is, and if being the way I'm about to describe makes me a shill, then so be it. That's the way it goes. I love Star Wars. Star Wars is fun. Star Wars has been with me literally the entire 44 years of my life. It's something fun to do. It's something fun to consume. If there's a part of it I don't like, guess what? I may not watch that part more than one time. The parts I love, I watch them multiple times. I do a show. I do content creation. Star Wars is fun. Star Wars is to be enjoyed. And Star Wars does that community thing where it brings people together. We've got folks hanging out in the chat with us. We've got Jeff, Dale, Brian, Tasty Cakes, Benny, Robbie, folks hanging out. Excited to see y'all here. We hope you'll click the link and call in and be a part of the show. Eric's here. That's what Star Wars is. Star Wars is community. Star Wars is fun. And if enjoying Star Wars and taking the parts I like and leaving apart the parts that aren't my favorite parts and leaving that for somebody else to enjoy makes me a shill, then by damn, I'm a shill. And I don't care. It's not. The checks from Disney aren't showing up. I don't know if we have a mail problem. I don't know what's going on. But bottom line, I'm here to cheers and toast to Star Wars. I'm here to toast to the two of you. I raise my glass and I say cheers and happy Star Wars.
Happy Star Wars.
Cheers, happy Star Wars. All right, let's see what this is all about, Nick.
For those of you who may have missed it online this week, Nick sent some samples of some brown liquor to our friend Chris up in the Philly area.
That was I like that. It's pretty good. I like it. Yeah. Nice and peanut buttery as it goes down. I like it.
There you go. That's right. For those of you watching along now or catching this on the replay, Chris is enjoying the virtues of Screwball peanut butter whiskey, which, if you're a peanut butter fan, that's right. Screwball, sponsor the show. Hit us up.
Give us a call, sponsor the show.
Exactly.
Well,
can I just bring up
can I throw one more extra shout out? I'm sorry.
Sure.
I want to throw one more shout out in here to Jasmine. I just threw her comment up on the thing. Hey, OP. I sent both of you in the mail this last week some buttons that Jasmine made for us.
Thank you. They are
Chill
awesome.
Buttons, Space Friends buttons, and she made those for us. Jasmine's son Atticus is a good friend of my girls, and she's become a good friend of ours, and so we're super thankful for those buttons, and I'm so excited I got to share them with both of you as well.
They're awesome. Thank you so much. Nice. They're great. We love them.
If I could just speak on what Pete, what you had talked about earlier, about us having like some good Star Wars content this week as far as Mando and Bad Batch goes. I'm going to take it a little bit further because every week there's fantastic footage, and this is not trying to jump on you guys for not reading the comics. I'm not even going there, but we had 3 comics come out this week that were fantastic. You know, so not only that, on the same day that Mando and Bad Batch come out, you know, we had High Republic, we had
the Staros one, right?
Yeah, the Son of Staros one. Yep. And there's another, and I'm blanking right now. So we had those, and then on Tuesday, you had Star Wars Star Wars Jedi Battle Scars, the Star Wars Jedi Survivor prequel book that that came out, and plus those 2. It's a damn good week.
I mean, think about that. 3 comic books, a novel, and 2 episodes of a show, and not filler episodes by any definition. I don't care who you are. 2 really great episodes. Yeah, for sure.
This is I think we talked about this earlier. 8-year-old me would have lost his mind for just a week like this. Like all that Star Wars stuff coming out.
Yeah.
Like, back then, like my my fully interactive, Star Wars experience was, I think, I had like the Droids cartoons on videotape at one point. And then, I think in 85 or 86, the C-3PO cereal came out. When I ate C-3PO cereal and watched Droids, I was just like, this is that is just like a synergy that I was like, it can't get any better than this. It can't.
Little did you know.
40 years later.
It's wild because there's the 8-year-old you component of that.
Yeah.
But there's also the 12, 13, 14-year-old component of me of that where we hadn't gotten past the original trilogy movies and we had gotten into pre-special editions where, things are happening again. If you had told that version of me all the things we were going to get, that's the part that's even more unbelievable to me because all I had were books. I held EU books, which I love and cherish. Maybe going to get into that here in a little bit, but it's mind blowing. And of course you see variety articles and you see the things about Bob Iger and budgets and movies and being careful. And that's fine. That's business. This is still business. Let's not be fooled. Entertainment is business. But look at what we're getting. I think we saw that Acolyte maybe pushed to 2024. Okay, great. Small loss. We're still getting Ahsoka. We're still getting Vision. We're still getting all these other things. What's the Jude Law one?
Skeleton Crew.
That's still this year. So okay, if Acolyte gets pushed, that means they have time to make it better. What are we doing? Look at what we get.
Yeah, I mean, we waited 800 days for Mandalorian, and it looks great. It's been absolutely worth the wait for sure. Yeah. So we're going to get into these conversations in just a couple minutes. Before we get going, I want to remind everybody to go ahead and check out all of our social media channels. We have some fun at the SSW Network, the SSW Network on Twitter, TikTok. We had a TikTok that freaking blew up. 50,000 views in 24 hours. All of our others get 200. So I don't know. Maybe somebody must have reposted it somewhere. Yeah, I don't know what happened. But follow our TikTok, our Instagram. keep an eye on us here on the YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook. Go to streamingstarwars.com to get all the information, and also to get links to our merch. We just launched a couple new shirts this week. We got the old Smoothies shirt went up, and the Shill shirt has returned. So speaking of returns, we'll be back in 1 minute to dig into one of the most incredible weeks of Star Wars content we've ever had as fans. And there's so much to talk about, and we want to talk about it with you. So we'll be right back in just a minute with more Force Connect.
In 1977, Star Wars exploded onto screens, changing movies and people forever. Today, the first generation of Star Wars kids are now the prime demographic. But it's not always easy for Generation X to find their voice online. Millennials and Generation Z produce the majority of user-generated content, and the algorithm leads too easily to toxic YouTubers with a less than inclusive agenda. We all need a place to relive what it is we love about the galaxy far, far away without the negativity of clickbait or the shouting voices of the would-be influencers. That place is the SSW Network. A hub of content created by people who love the saga, that's inclusive, upbeat, and real. With programs that encourage them to stay connected to those childhood memories and make new ones with the people they love. A place to hear from and connect with new and classic creators, celebrities, authors, and superfans. The SSW Network keeps the conversation going about new and original content and remembers what it means to be a Star Wars fan. The SSW Network. Every generation has a story.
And we are back. Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. We said at the top of the hour, we said it just before we went to break. This week in Star Wars got us 3 comic books, a new novel, and over an hour of brand new 2 new episodes of Star Wars content. Chris, where do you want to start the conversation, man? I mean, this is there's been so much that's already been said, right? Like we said on Twitter today. All the reaction videos are out. Those are always a lot of fun. All the reviews of the shows are out. But what's worth digging into? Let's start with one of the 2 streaming shows. Where would you? What's the thing that stuck out to you? Where do you want to go with that?
Without a doubt, 10,000% Bad Batch is the heavier of the 2 episodes.
Yep.
The more spectacle, of course, is going to be with Mando, and I guess we can start with that one. This I was saying to my buddy Jim, the last 3-4 minutes of the first episode of the season opener for Mando is like, I love that. I liked everything else very much. You know that, Sigmund the Sea Monster, Pirate King, and all that stuff. I dug it all. But that last couple of minutes where it got heavy, I was like, okay, here we go, here we go. And then the entire second episode was on that same level, and we got so much information, so much more about Mandalore, and I just thought it was like, while watching, I'm like, this is literally like watching one of the animated shows where they can go like super lore heavy and everything, and seeing that in the live action form, and of course when Dave Filoni is involved with it. It takes Star Wars to another level.
Funny, I was watching the episode before we came on, and it's funny you said that about it felt like watching one of the animated episodes, because when Bo-Katan she's got her jetpack on underwater flying down into that felt like something out of the Clone Wars TV show, the animated show. So you're right. Not only has it added to the lore, but it's captured that feel of where those characters came from.
Yeah.
I want to poke Chris a little bit more, push him a little bit farther, because he talked about Bad Batch, and you're exactly right. Heavy episode of Bad Batch. And like, Crosshair for me has not been, I mean, he's the bad guy. He's been, we set it up last season, the pariah, the separated, the why doesn't he get it? Good soldiers follow orders, all the things. But we see this episode, he gets to see with Mayday, which, first of all, give me a clone trooper with a beard. Clearly, I'm a fan of beards. Like, great character. I mean, we haven't had anything that good since Hauser was on last year. Like,
right.
But also, I'm a big fan of that.
Hauser.
I'm a big fan of that helmet with the kind of Dengar wrapping. Like, I need that to be something I can buy now.
Yeah.
But talk to us a minute, because of course, Chris, you are on the Scar Squadron train. and this pushes us even farther in that direction. Before we get into Mando even more, because I think that's going to probably be the primary driver tonight, I want you to give Bad Batch the time it deserves. Dig into that for us.
Listen, I'm not going to sit here and be like, haha, I told you, you see? But it took my entire being not to text you both. As soon as I was done watching this episode at 3, 4 in the morning, to not gloat. Gloat's not the word, not gloat, but it just go like, hey, see what I've been saying in an aggressive manner, in an aggressive, egotistical manner, but not gloat. Listen, one or two things is going to happen with this, and you know, I know that we're going to talk about people's theories and all that kind of stuff, but at this moment, nothing I say about this can be called a theory. It's prophecy. It's what I've been trying to tell y'all for the longest time. No one believed me, but here we are. He like Crosshair finally turned. He finally turned. He finally sees that the Empire thinks nothing. The clones are like just like dirt beneath their boots. They don't care about them. That a-hole, was it Nolan? Was
Yep.
that his
Lieutenant
Yeah.
Nolan. Yep.
Ellen. Yep.
And he called them equipment. I would have shot him right then and there if I was.
It's the way I felt when Mace Windu called Ahsoka citizen in Clone
Yes.
Wars season 7.
Okay, listen. All right. The demonizing of Mace Windu is going to happen. It's going to calm down. Right? And that is a totally different thing. That is a total.
Is it though?
Yes. Yeah. That is. You're not a part of the club anymore. This one is. You're less than. You're less than human. You're less than nothing. That's that.
Fair.
That's the.
Fair.
That's the tone
I
on
get
that
it.
one.
We'll get in there.
But to see him and to see him like, are they starting to score? I forgot what number episode this was, but like, but to see him now, he's in that cloning facility. As soon as he woke up there, I was like, here we go.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the
Come
script.
to
And
Papa.
and you know what? I expected like all kinds of messages and whatnot to come flood again, going, "You were right. You've been saying it for years. You were right." No one, crickets. No one. I didn't even say. I'm saying that you'll all see by the time it's. I'm not going to say a word. I'm not going to say a word.
Well,
This is gonna be
isn't
my
next week
reaction.
a double episode week? Maybe that's
Is it?
where it comes in.
No. We got 2 weeks of regular, and then the final, because we're on 12.
Oh,
we got
okay.
13 and 14, and then we got. I'm sorry, I didn't mean I'm actually there. If I was wearing my glasses, I could have pushed them up. But here I'm
The devil's
predicting
at the
we.
end.
I'm
Okay.
predicting we get a floater episode. I know that it doesn't feel like we can be there right now, but I'm predicting it's going to be a light one. I'm just saying. I hope I'm wrong, because
Well,
it's
it's
been.
going to be. It's definitely going to be with the team. All the
Yep.
team stuff has been like light. It's been like all the light stuff, and all the heavy
Yep.
stuff has been with, because this is, as much as he hasn't been a huge part of this season. This has been Crosshair's season because he is a catalyst of what's pushing this
Yeah.
story forward.
Right.
And the fact that he got caught. So one of two things is gonna happen. Definitely one is gonna happen. He's definitely gonna be the first that's gonna be either like they're gonna take his DNA and make it more compliant, like I said before, more compliant Bad Batch with Scar Squadron, and he's gonna
Right.
be the first one. But they may do something with him, and he's gonna be the first Death Trooper.
A lot of people
Mhm.
saying Death Trooper. Yep, and I think it's an interesting concept. It's definitely an interesting concept, and I think it could happen. Yeah, and I'm just so interested in what's going on at Tantus. It was the first time we ever heard Tantus said out loud, right?
right.
Yeah,
Then
yeah,
captions.
yeah.
Yeah.
But who's that? Was that scientist name again? The creepy guy,
Hemlock.
Hemlock. He had said it in the previous episode, I think.
Dr. Hemlock is the most mustache twirly bad guy name that you could come up with.
Yeah,
And he's so good. He's, one of the things that's been really great is that he's so hateable, and he's just like he's punchable. Like there's certain characters
Punchable
that are
face,
just
yep.
Hemlock or Nolan.
Yeah.
both of them, but Hemlock,
both,
I feel
but
like
Hemlock
I'm
for
just
sure.
Something about Hemlock is offsetting, like his absolute devotion to whatever Palpatine's vision is. his contingency plan and whatnot.
Yes.
You're like, bro, how deep is this dude in? Because he is like hang 10 for Palpatine. Like, yeah, let's go.
Yep.
Let's go. Like, his vision is this and that. Like, this guy has to be a part of whatever Project Snoke is.
Yep.
Or
Well,
whatever they're doing with Grogu. Like, he's ooh.
And I'm thinking Nala Se knows exactly what's going on, and that's why she is not going to do anything. Well, I'll tell you what, there's more to talk about in Tantus, and we have a friend of ours from Twitter is going to join us in a second. We're going to take a real quick break, then we're going to bring in Nate Messer to tell us his Omega theory, and I think it ties into absolutely everything we've just been talking about. So we're going to hit one more break. Sorry, everybody. We're just going to do it that way, get these out of the way so we can keep on talking, but we'll be right back in 1 minute with more talk about Bad Batch. All right, we are back. We're talking about Bad Batch. We're talking about Mandalorian. We're talking about whatever you want. You know, this is your show. You guys call in. You tell us what you want to talk about. This is one of those times where there's actually two people calling in tonight who I had conversations with on Twitter and said, just call in. Let's talk about it. And so the first one, I want to bring in Nate Messer because he had a really cool thread about Omega. So I want to bring him in and welcome Nate Messer.
What do you want?
Nate, welcome to Force Connect. How are you doing,
What's
man?
going on? Hey, glad to be here. Thanks for the invite.
You know, when I was reading your thread, I was following along, and I was like, I want to talk. You know what? Just talk to all of us about it. Get on the show. Let's hear about it. So I've been talking it up. So give us a little bit of Chaco's hanging out. Good to see you, man.
I love it.
Give us a little bit of what you were writing about. I was going to read it, but I'd rather hear it from you. So let's hear it.
Yeah. I mean, I even pulled it up myself. It's easier when things are written down, you know. So
got to go to the canon, right?
I know. When you start going down this path too, you start jumping all over the place. And this is an
But
idea.
before you do that, though, tell everybody where about your show and where they can find you too.
Sure.
Because we'll forget that. We'll get so into this and we'll lose track.
Sure. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Yeah, I got a podcast of my own, Star Wars Guys podcast. It's myself, my brother, and our uncle actually, who kind of got us into Star Wars years ago, and so we kind of hit different generations. It's been a lot of fun. I'm also all over, social media, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, now with the thread. So, yeah.
A tapestry of commentary. So let's hear it. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that just kind of clicked for me. It was like 1 a.m. I watched the episode and I'm like, oh, I got to dive into it. I've had this theory. Some may call it a theory. I know you guys were talking about it. It's starting to become, evidence and stuff now, but just everything seems to revolve around this cloning idea, whether it's Mando with Grogu, Omega, the Bad Batch. It's a big heavy hitter moving in with Snoke and all that stuff. So there's a decent amount to it, but I'll try to not get too into the weeds. Let's just break it down by character. My idea with the new recent character we've seen in Dr. Carr getting introduced, and also it seems like the camera shots, they're really emphasizing her face and just kind of some of her dialogue. They're putting her in the forefront of those scenes that we've seen with bringing in Nala Se and the Bad Batch.
Yep.
I think Filoni, these guys, they do a lot of this stuff intentionally. She looks a lot like Omega. She sounds like Omega. And that's kind of where things started clicking for me. So my overarching theory is that Omega is some sort of maybe the first mix of clone DNA. I know they mentioned in season 1 that she was unmodified. We don't necessarily know what that means entirely. We don't know if that's also Nala Se trying to protect her. We know that she in season 1 was trying to protect her, keep her away from the Empire. So she obviously has a connection to her, whereas Omega doesn't seem to have the same like connection back. It's not necessarily reciprocated in a way that's like, oh, she's a mother figure to me because she was ready to move on.
Yep.
So from that sense, Nala Se creating her in a private laboratory, there's a lot of secrecy there. So this is my idea. Basically, we might go down a path that we find out in the previous episode when they mentioned Omega is the key, right? She's the key. Her DNA, the reason why she's partly special is she was, Nala Se essentially cracked the code of this mixing of Boba Fett, the clone DNA, or Jango Fett, the clone DNA, and this Dr. Carr. And Nala Se is being, held captive and stuff because they know that she's intelligent with figuring this out. They don't have the actual evidence themselves. They're trying to get it. That's why they want Omega. Long story short, this is leading down a path to the stepping stones of Palpatine's contingency plan with Snoke. She's the first one to kind of get this method of mixing this DNA because Palpatine eventually wants to get that Force sensitivity mix into the works. And so then now in Mando, we're kind of seeing the parallel stages of this with Grogu. They want Grogu. He's the test subject. He's maybe the first one, maybe he's not, but he's one that they're using to try and get that Force sensitivity to start using this Omega idea, right? That they, succeed with Omega. They take Grogu now later in the timeline. They're trying to use it, get the Force sensitivity in there. They get what they needed. Moff Gideon talks about how they got their samples. We see maybe some glimpses of some Snoke tank mixture in there. And then eventually that becomes the Snoke that we see through trial and error into the Rise of Skywalker stuff. So it's kind of a stepping stone there. And I think it's interesting that they really try to highlight her, it seems like, in these last couple episodes of Bad Batch.
That's it. Chris, you seem to
sign me up. I like that. I no, I don't like that. I can love that. I'm about it, dude. Yeah, I like that.
It does. I think you bring up an interesting point about the subtlety of the way they tell stories, right? And that's what really, when I was reading your thread there, that really kind of stuck with me was, you start to realize that the way Filoni tells stories, the way even Book of Boba Fett, every one of these shows, they're not just like these goofy fan films, right?
Right.
They're built. They especially in animation, where every frame is meticulously designed. So if you're going to hang on a character, that costs money, right? It's not like you're spending an extra 5 seconds on set. It costs money.
Right.
So these decisions to keep these on there, and it's funny you say that about her having the similarities to Omega. Was my 10-year-old son said she sounds just like Omega, and I was like, yeah, it's just an accent. It's all gay. Yeah, they're and then I read your thing, and I was like, damn it, he's onto something. He's got yeah, Nick, what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, it's all connected, and we know that. And I said this last week, I think. Disney, Lucasfilm, they're playing a much bigger game than any of us realize. Like, live action, animation, all these things connect. I loved when, I don't know if I saw it because I follow him or if I saw it because you tweeted it, but when I saw Nathan's, that thread, immediately I read it and I was like, I'm in, I buy it. Yeah. Like I'm I'm connected to that. And for me, that this week's episode of Mando as we continue to watch all these things develop, again, I grew up with an era of, heir to the empire. Mount Tantus means something. Cloning
Yep.
means something. We get that in the first series, when Dr. Pershing shows up the first time in season 1 of Mando. Like, this is all highly orchestrated from a storytelling standpoint. This isn't coincidental. This isn't nonsense. This isn't, oh, well, what if we do this? Like, there's a much bigger game that they're playing. And I think, and my big kind of overarching theory for the night that we'll get to at some point is, this all points to the sequel trilogy. This all points to the First Order. This all points to Palpatine, Rise of Skywalker. And we're getting, just like, as much shit as Pete and I give Chris about comic books, like, we're filling in gaps. We're filling in all the spaces where these stories develop and grow. And you can get the big picture. And if all you watch is movies, you still get a great story. Mm-hmm. But if you add in live action, if you add in animation, because you may do 1, 2, 3, or all of them. Brian's feeling me right here. Make Salamiri canon again. We'll come back to that. There's still something there. That's where I am with it. Like, it's natural. It makes perfect sense. When when you tweeted that thread, I was like, yeah, of course, because it feeds everything we've been talking about and feeling over the last 2 years.
And what they're doing is not about erasing the sequel trilogy or anything like that. It's about enriching
the
sequel trilogy. And
it's the opposite. Yeah.
It's 100% the opposite.
Yeah.
So Nathan, before we let you go, what were your thoughts on? Do you have any thoughts on the Mandalorian episode?
Oh, I mean, I loved it. I loved it. I mean, it felt like a good. Mando has always been kind of mission based, and this seemed like a quick change of pace from the first episode in terms of just the time sequence throughout the episode. And I loved the Grogu centric short mission he went on. It seemed very like starts with Mando, then we follow Grogu, and then Bo-Katan comes and joins, and it's kind of her, and then we wrap back up with Mando again there at the end. I loved it.
I agree. And I think with that Grogu arc, or that little moment in the middle of that episode, somebody else wrote it on Twitter today, so I can't take credit for it. They said, we finally had an episode where it wasn't just him holding his hand out and doing the Force thing. Like, there was agency. Like, he had to make a choice to go, holy shit, I need to get out of here, jump, fly, and they set it up. They said it before when Peli, gives him R5D4. He can co-pilot. Like, we got all the bits, we got all the things, but Grogu made the decision. Grogu went on a chosen thing to say, dude, I've got to help Dad. Like, it wasn't just, ooh, let me freeze the Mudhorn. Ooh, let me tame the Rancor. Like, there was agency, and it gives that character that, for the most part has been cute baby arm candy for Mando, up to this point. Like, he's making decisions on his own. Like, that's fun.
Yeah. On the rewatch, you definitely, the second time around, you definitely pick up every piece of the puzzle that they fed you. I mean, like, they spoon fed you everything. Here's how you use the chart, and R5D4 can pilot, and this is
where Bo-Katan is.
This is where Bo-Katan is, exactly.
So but hey, thank you so much for joining us with that really cool theory, and thanks for hanging out. You're welcome to join us anytime you like, man. And make sure to check out the Star Wars guys when you get a chance. Good guys. And hey, does your brother doing any impressions on that show, or no? Or is he just
on Star Wars guys?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, we go off the rails when it starts getting impression wise. We just start throwing stuff out there. People.
Well, we had your brother on Around the Galaxy. We need to have you on sometime soon. So let's keep in touch, man. And we'll talk to you again soon, I'm sure, man.
Absolutely. I can't wait. I'll come on.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for having me on. See you guys.
Bye. I love a good theory.
I love a good theory.
A good
I
theory.
like this comment from Jade. A good theory, not a bad theory.
Yes.
There are some good Star Wars theories, but there are some bad Star Wars theories, wouldn't you say? Anyway, sorry.
I would say that, but I also want to point out JD threw in the chat earlier.
That could go some ways.
Anyway.
Yeah.
What? Tucker Carlson of Star Wars? What are we talking about?
Joe Rogan.
JD made a great point. Just like the Clone Wars enriched the prequels, and I put that up earlier when Nate was talking. Same thing. We continue to flesh out stories. Prequel trilogy, original trilogy, sequel trilogy, everything we get, novels, animation, comic books, shorts, whatever it is we get, you can enjoy I use the analogy of big rocks all the time. If all you want are the big rocks, the movies, you've got what you need.
Yeah.
But if you want to continue to do the next thing, you get a little bit more. It gets fleshed out. It gets to become the next thing. So,
Can you put Jimmy?
Yeah.
Tasty.
Yep.
Yeah, man.
Yep. There it is.
Yeah.
Right there.
There it is. Well, hey, so we have a couple other callers waiting to come in before our next break. Let's take one of them. What do you say, Nick? I'll run a clip
Let's go.
and bring in our next guest.
Greetings, Exalted One.
I mean, it's only appropriate we throw his comment on the screen. He's the next caller. Angry Tasty Cakes.
I thought Eric
the
was
house.
next, so I was not
okay.
prepared.
How's it going?
Oh, doing good. Actually, really exciting.
Yeah,
week.
we were
little
saying
bit going
before.
on.
Yeah, lots and lots of stuff. So, which piece of Star Wars multimedia would you like to discuss this evening?
Yes, that's all I got.
Yes, have some.
No, I was pleasantly surprised with the amount of drops just across the board that we got.
Yeah.
I wound up buying the Old Republic comics.
Mhm.
Sorry. And I wound up
Apologize.
I wound up binge watching Mando like 3 or 4 times that day because
Mhm.
I was like, I feel like I'm gonna miss something if I don't. And I gotta be honest, this was, I think, the first episode in the latter half of the second season for the Bad Batch I really liked.
Yeah,
I thought for the most part it's been kind of slow. So I gotta say, seeing Crosshair at the center of that was a nice, refreshing change of pace. Oh,
hot
damn.
take. The first good episode. All right.
Well, no, I should say, like,
I'm misquoting you because I write tweets for a good portion of my day, so I have to
you write them for an $800 lightsaber hilt too.
Right, I had to inflame it a little bit. Yeah. So you were saying about this particular episode of Bad Batch as it compares to the rest of the season.
Yeah,
so far.
so I think because we're obviously in it's coming to a close in like the next 2 or 3 weeks, right? And I really enjoyed the mining episode when she finally, like, that whole dynamic between the two. But having seen this one, I'm like, no, I actually I like this one more.
Yeah.
Just because seeing Crosshair kind of come to the realization, like, what did I do? And seeing how, like, the Empire is really treating them. And he's finally like getting that to click. And I was like, okay, this is the kind of development I wanted from him as a character.
Yeah.
And we're finally getting it. Because I got to be honest, at the end of season 1, I was frustrated. I was so frustrated. I was like, why can't you see this? And then, it finally dawned on me, like, the mantra that he has is good soldiers follow orders. Well, he is a good soldier and he's going to follow them. But it also kind of made me think, like, does that inhibitor chip degrade over time?
Right.
Because it's like, it's biological, right? And if they're aging, does that age with them? And I'm wondering if it, like,
great point. And because you saw the way Mayday was sort of losing his connection to that commitment, etc.
And even Cody, like,
Yep.
in a couple episodes prior, like, Cody was who I never thought would ever forsake the Republic or the Empire after the whole switch happened. And even he's just like, nah, this ain't right.
Right.
Well, was the command, I guess, with that chip, is that just that the Jedi are enemies now, Was that like
Mhm.
strictly it? Because if that's the case, then it's not really deterioration. It's just, oh, the Jedi are gone, and then they're back to just being regular
That's a
clones. Now
that's
working
a
for the
great
Empire.
question. Is the chip there to improve loyalty, or is it there to execute one order, which
Yeah.
is if you
Yeah.
see a Jedi, kill him. So
And that's kind of where we dive into like the expanded universe to an extent too, because I mean, there's like 170 orders that these clones have programmed in them from birth.
Mm.
Like, and 66 is only one of them. So it's like,
Right.
at what point does one outweigh the other?
Right.
And Jasmine put in the chat here, she said that he took his chip out, and
Yeah.
I think she's right. I'm not
Yeah,
100%.
Crosshair. Yeah,
but-
he said he's a
yeah.
Hmm.
So that's
Yeah.
that's where that training kind of kicks in though, and he's just like, nah, I'm a soldier first and foremost. Like, all right, dude, like you're gonna get slapped. I know you're about to get slapped.
Yeah.
And it was just, I think, just seeing that when he was finally coming to terms with the fact that times are a changing, and he's going to be left behind if he doesn't adapt to it.
Yeah.
But I'm firmly in the camp of the Death Trooper theory.
Yeah.
I'm firmly there. Like, I didn't think about it, and then I was reading some of those threads, and I'm like, I guess I'm in it.
Yeah. He now but the question is, and I think Nick and Chris, you and I talked a little bit about it over text. There were female Death Troopers, right? In Rebels,
And Rebels.
right?
There was one in Rebels. Yeah.
Died on Scarif, I think.
I don't think that that I don't think he's a clone. No, I don't think that there are any clones that are Death Troopers, except for maybe Crosshair being like like a test to see what they could do, because a lot of them are all like genetically modified, like all the Death Troopers. So he could just be like like the first test to see what that is. But of course, still the other part is him being a part of Scar Squadron. It's like, you guys need to just accept the prophecy. Keep trying.
Chris,
As long
the
as he winds
Prophet
up being the one
Rhymes.
with the hood, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
I like
Well,
him.
let me ask you guys. I'm gonna ask you all something. There was one line, and let me know what you think about this, because it kind of hurt when he first said it. Mayday, when he said when he's seen how the Empire treats the clones, and he was like, "We're good soldiers. We follow orders." Like he did that mantra,
Yep.
and put it into that sentence where it's like, we did all this stuff. We were what we're supposed to be, and they still treat us like dog shit. Like, what were your thoughts like when they got to that line?
I think he keeps repeating it to himself to kind of reassure himself that what he did was the right thing in his mind. But I think deep down he knows that it wasn't the right thing to do, because I mean, those are his pod brothers. Like commandos don't give up on their pod brothers, and I feel like for him he felt as though he gave up on them. But
he's 100% in justification mode. You repeat the mantra to make yourself feel good about the thing that you're not sure you believe.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that kind of ties into the same idea of Mando to a certain extent too. Like, he keeps repeating the creed to himself, but he's secretly second guessing everything. It's like he's in the Death Watch, and they're not exactly great, know. So it's kind of an interesting parallel or connection, however you want to phrase it.
Yeah, it definitely feels like, and maybe that's a repetitive theme that we're kind of seeing, a parallel theme. We're seeing people kind of talk themselves into something that they now are not sure about, I guess. Is a way to look at it. So
yeah, and it's just kind of cool to see how these two main characters are kind of coming to terms with what they've done and who they're associating with, and how they're going to change from it. So I'm super pumped.
It's awesome. Cool. Well, hey man, thanks for hanging out. Now you're keeping your streak alive. What is this, 3 weeks in a row now? Is it
longer than that? I think.
Yeah.
I was here during the match game too. So.
Okay, that definitely counts as you get some credit for that. But thanks for hanging out with us. We will talk to you again hopefully next week. Keep the streak alive, and I'm sure we're going to get some wild stuff to talk about next week, my friend. So,
I hope.
So thanks for hanging out, and we're
you,
going to
buddy.
take a real quick break, and when we come back, we're going to keep these conversations going. We're going to keep talking Bad Batch, and I think we got some Mandalorian cult conversation to get to as well. So we'll be back in just a minute with more Streaming Star Wars Force Connect. And we're back. Welcome back to Force Connect, our live Friday night Star Wars conversation. If you're hanging out with us, please make sure to hit the subscribe button so you're reminded about when we do this next week. And you know what? Think about it. If you got a moment, think for a second about becoming a Streaming Star Wars patron, because for as little as $3 a month, you can be part of our live interviews when we do them for the Around the Galaxy show and for Podcast of the Whills. You can be part of the live virtual audience when we have those conversations. And you know, it's great. Doesn't matter who we get when you're in that back room there and you're watching and you're chatting. Our guests are checking them out. Our guests are commenting on it. So feel free to scan the QR code on the screen there. Check it out. Just go, maybe check it out. Decide what you want to do. Decide if you want to be a part of the family. If you want to pay to be part of the family, that's fine. Or just join us on Friday nights. And I'll tell you what, even if you don't become a patron, if you're enjoying
Always
anything, right? If you're enjoying the shows, any of the shows around the galaxy, Force Connect, Podcast of the Whills, or even our friends over at Bro Axiom, tell people about it. That's the most important thing you can do. There's a lot of conversation, a lot of great. There's literally thousands of Star Wars shows out there. And if you like one, tell people. I tell people about shows I love all the time. So, and speaking of shows, you know, we've had a guest who he and Angry Tasty Cakes are sort of in an unofficial competition for trying to keep their streak alive on the show. And Eric has gone so
it's
far.
the Cal Ripken Jr. of Star Wars podcasts.
It really is.
Somebody's going to be the Iron Man.
Who is it going to be? Well, this gentleman has gone so far as to start his own podcast this week. So let's welcome in our next guest.
Hello, what have we here?
There he is. How's it going, man? How are you?
Yeah, man, I started a whole podcast.
How's it going, dude?
I'm doing all right. If anyone is interested, my name of my podcast is Honest to Claude. It's on YouTube, and me and my dad did our first episode together. We talked about the two shows that y'all been talking about, Bad Batch and Mandalorian, most recent episode. We also talked about Glup Shitos. Exactly what the hell that is.
And who's your favorite Glub Shido?
I can't decide. I to research to do as many episodes as possible, I had to search up 300 Glove Shitos.
I'll go ahead and tell you right now.
I've never heard of before. Sometimes.
No, nobody asked, but it's relevant to this week's episode of Mando. I'm pretty sure mine is actually R5D4.
Could someone explain to me what? Listen, I'm not up on what the kid lingo and whatnot. I don't know what's popping in the streets with these kids. So what is a Glub Shito?
A Glub Shito is a character in Star Wars, usually in the movies, that really doesn't do anything or say anything, or maybe just be a background extra that has a name on Wikipedia. That's a Glub Shito.
Yep. Your most favorite random background character.
Yeah, so it can be anything from Nick Scradine to like just someone that is just wearing a weird outfit in Attack of the Clones.
Gotcha.
Like anything.
Okay, so now I have a name for or a term for that, because now I'm just, like, whenever I look at anyone in the background, I'm like, I want to know their story. I want to know, like, everyone, I'm like, they've got a story. I want to know it, and I need the action figure. You know, like that's how I am.
And they'll sell toys like that. Like Anthony Daniels and On My Best, they play Star Wars characters are not C-3PO and Jar Jar Binks in the background of the bar, and they have names, and they gave them lore, and they have toys. So,
and now
I'm still waiting for my story on those two cops from Bestman, Cloud City's finest.
Well, me and my dad, we talked about a specific Bespin guard, the first Asian actor in Star Wars. We talked about him. So if you're interested, you can go to that.
Love that.
But what I want to talk about is not
what's your thing tonight?
I want to expand on my conspiracy.
Okay. The Rey.
I'm not done with it. I'm not letting it go. Okay.
Well, let's remind people. This is Eric told us last week that he believes that there could be Zillow blood in Rey. Correct? Right.
At least some kind of Zillow DNA. Just blood. Just
now hear him out. Hear him out.
All right, let's have it.
Okay. If you didn't have the context, Zillow Beast a part of the colonial program. They've seen Bad Batch. I think that her being a direct descendant of Palpatine gave that to her. I think there was manipulation. But I started thinking to myself, like, very specific scenes and things that we know from sequel trilogy. Rey gets a very bad burn mark on her arm in The Last Jedi. Next movie, it's gone. Completely gone. I'm like, that's an interesting cell regeneration, isn't that? Something like a lizard. Another thing is that she's able to calm the Vexus, the space snake.
The cool four-eyed snake.
In underneath cave. And I'm just like, lizard recognize lizard. I'm starting to see something. Another thing, in Rise of Skywalker, when she goes into Palpatine's vault and she sees the evil version of herself, what appears on this evil Rey? Sharp teeth. I'm telling you, at some point, the lizard will arise into the soul of Rey, and she will become more lizard-like. It's like prolonged, slight werewolf rules.
Like episode 11, maybe she'll turn into she'll start start chomping on like electrical cables and then growing.
Yeah, it'll be like Tokyo Ghoul, just like start becoming the beast.
Well, she's gonna have to, because if she's gonna fight Grogu the Destroyer,
she needs the reptile up.
She needs to power up and turn into a Megazord size. It has to happen.
I didn't say Megazord. I didn't go that far. I might have two tinfoil hats on, but I'm not going 3.
All right, well, 8 feet tall. 8 feet tall is fine.
That's right. It totally works. I love that. Eric, I'm so excited for your new show. We want to encourage everybody to check that out, subscribe, follow you.
Yeah, I'll post a link in the comments after you officially, like when the live is over. So
that's awesome.
Anyone that wants to, they can.
There.
Yeah. You don't have to, but if you like my kind of conversation about reptile Rey.
Well, I have to ask you though: is your dad going to be a regular co-host? Because that was really cool, man. I love that. As you know, like my dad and me are very close when it comes to Star Wars. And,
he's going to be definitely my most freaking co-host by far.
Awesome.
I do plan to start teaming up with people. Maybe they can do like a video call. Maybe one day I'll have Scott from Bomb Badcast, do some
the top of the mountain right there.
Gotta have the glove for sure.
Love it. Awesome. It's always good to see you, my friend. Thank you so much for calling in, and I'm sure we will most likely see you next week.
Cal Ripken. That's right. Keep it going, my friend. All right, dude. We'll see you. We'll see you next week.
All right.
See you, buddy.
Later.
I'll tell you what, as crazy as we have joked about that Solo Beast thing, I would actually kind of like to see that because hey, Solo Beast is part of the cloning program, right?
Yeah.
Gotta be.
It's in there. It's in there. And
It's just like in Jurassic Park when they used frog DNA to
right.
complete those parts of the dinosaur sequencing. I mean, come
It's a good
on.
reference. Yeah.
Correct.
Tell me why it doesn't work.
Life
And
finds a
you know,
way.
and of course, now if you have Rey, right,
Mhm.
and she has to go up against Grogu, the Destroyer, what does it all link back to? The cloning process. Everything leads back to Mount Tantus.
Everything comes back
Boom!
to Mount Tantus.
Eric
Everything
is
comes
onto
back.
something, and it enriches what I've been saying about Grogu since the first season. I love where this is all. Oh my God, Favreau and Filoni, you guys are geniuses. Ooh,
Well, hey, so
connecting it all together. I love it.
it is all coming together, and we're gonna. We have a guest waiting to join us again. It was somebody
Yeah,
who
bro.
I talked to during the week, and we had a little bit of a conversation. He responded to a tweet that I had where I talked about I really want to see The Mandalorian as a show, really address sort of the impact or the cultishness of what Din is seeing and where Bo-Katan is coming from. And
Mhm.
our good friend, former co-host of Force Connect a while ago, he said, I want to talk about that. And I said, well then, dude, call into the show. So let's bring him in.
And who might you be?
Andy
There
Lemire.
he
Andy,
is.
how are you, my friend?
I'm well, fellas. How are you
Doing
guys
great.
doing?
Host of Holo
deal.
Chronicles and the Dad Pod. What is it? The Pod Dad. Right.
Dad bod, dad pod.
I am so excited about that. I was talking. Josh reached out to me yesterday a little bit on it. I can't wait to see where you guys go with that. This is going to be a ton of fun. But how are things, man? How's life treating you? We got all the beards here on the screen right now.
All the beards.
Well,
It's time.
Chris, you got the little thing, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Chris is like a jazz musician. It's fine.
Right. We're a jazz quartet on the screen. Right now.
I'll be
In
the
very
beatnik.
varying shades of gray too.
Oh, sure.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, Pete, I caveated my response to your tweet saying I would love to hear what you mean
Yes.
by your
Yep.
tweet outside of the 100 characters that you used to give an opinion. So before we debate, I want to fully understand what you mean by that.
Sure. Yeah. So I think one of the things that's really interesting, and I'd love to hear also from Chris and Nick on this, pop in at any time. One of the things the way I put it in the tweet was, I look, you guys as my friends who I talk to on text on a regular basis, that one of my least favorite things in Twitter is when people are like, if we don't get Grogu getting a helmet this year, we riot. No, just no. That's no. Like there's very few like plot points that I'm adamant about. And I'm not adamant about this, but I think it's important. I would like to see, it's Star Wars. I'm not writing it. I'm excited to see it. Give us whatever you're going to give us. What I want to see, though, and I think it would be a missed opportunity if they don't explore where the cultishness of what we're seeing from both Death Watch and whether it's from the armor and from Bo-Katan, these extreme perspectives of what here's the rules. If you take your helmet off, it doesn't matter how good of a person you are, it doesn't matter why you took the helmet off, it doesn't matter if it was for the right reason, you're out. And Bo-Katan, who contradicted herself last week and was like, yeah, you believe in that crazy helmet stuff, and then the next sentence she's like, hey, you got the Darksaber, wave it around and they'll follow you. So she's so ingrained in that. I think there's a lesson. Star Wars is so good at giving us lessons, or at least making us, and lessons is a very strong word, so I want to rephrase that, because it's not preaching, but it's making us think. And so I'm hopeful that Star Wars will present this, the Mandalorian as a show will present these challenges in such a way that it makes people really think about what those hardline cultish perspectives are. And again, I don't want to point out anybody's particular religion, and I won't do that here. But every religion, and no matter which one you're in, has rules. And the question then becomes, what does that mean to you? And again, we talked about it before. Din, he's repeating the creed, and he's almost saying it to himself to talk himself into it or remind himself of this. And is that healthy? Is that good? So that was more than 100 characters, and so I think I got at the most of it there. I don't know what you all think about that.
Shall I go first?
Yes, please,
Okay.
Andrew.
I think we can recognize that violent extremism on any planet is less than ideal.
Yeah.
Death Watch sprung out of a necessity that out of a feeling that it was necessary, because the pacifist regime at the time was being taken advantage of by the separatists and Count Dooku. Yep. And some could see that not ending well, and the process was not taking it was not moving fast enough to protect Mandalore, and that was the heart of it. It's always for Mandalore, but then you throw it in on that Maul, who was wielding the Darksaber, who was not a Mandalorian, and there were groups that were divided about the legitimacy of Maul's rule, but with what I think you're going to find to be difficult is that Mandalore is a warrior people, right?
Yep.
That is a large part of their identity. It's a part of their history, and it's their current culture, and you can't just get rid of that.
Well, I mean, Mando says in the second episode of the series, those are my weapons, that's my religion, right?
Yep, right.
I mean, so yep, you're right on there for sure.
And so I don't see it going away ever. When there was the civil war between the loyalists and the traditionalists, aka Maul and the Super Commandos, what they were really fighting over was, the rightful rule and direction of Mandalore, which the loyalists were loyal. They would both claim to be loyal to Mandalore, but the loyalists' claim was that a Mandalorian should rule, and the traditionalist claim was the Darksaber wielder. And it's almost like a King Arthur legend. The wielder of the sword has divine rule. Is appointed by powers outside of human influence, and so that's even kind of a part of British culture, that Arthurian legend that, and they still have the monarchy, and is it pointless or is it cool? British people will debate that. But as far as just for clarity, and I always like to pick the words that have meaning here. A cult is a system of religion and veneration and devotion dedicated to a particular figure or object. Okay, and so we have the Darksaber, which is which is a particular object which is held in high esteem to many Mandalorians, both pacifist and non. And there's definitely a group of Mandalorians that they only respect strength, right? They view pacifism as a weakness, and especially after the separatists kind of screwed them over, that we need to be stronger. We need to have a militant arm or a militant leader that can defend us properly and not just negotiate too. It's like that walk softly but carry a big stick mentality. But then you got a sect, and now a sect is a group of people somewhat different with a slightly different religious take or belief, typically regarded as heretical from those from a larger group from which they belong. So Din is in a unique position in many, many ways because he is by adoption a Mandalorian, rescued by Death Watch loyalists, if we are to believe the armor that, of the people that were rescuing him.
Yep.
But within that Death Watch group, raised by a sect of the Way of Mandalore, right? The Children of the Watch. Or Children of the Night. Which one is it?
Children of the Watch.
Children of the Watch.
Yeah.
Okay. So he has affiliations to both, but has either, well, at this point, as an adult, he's choosing the path that he wants to take. And
did he freeze, or is that just on my side?
He definitely froze.
Okay.
Froze.
All right, so here's my thing. I'll throw this in there for a minute. We'll see if Andy comes back.
Oh, there he is.
There he is, right there. For me, with this idea of cult, whether it's modern day Christianity, which has its own shares of weaknesses, flaws, problems, issues. The thing that I see with Din and also with Bo is they are both in a place of what we call deconstruction. They are both trying to figure out and learning the differences in what they were taught versus what the case may really be. Bo comes from a higher class, a ruling class. She says something about, when she's talking to Grogu, she says something about the fact of my family used to rule this thing. Like, we used to be the deal. She's learning about, okay, things aren't what they used to be. Din is deconstructing, okay, I was raised with this certain religious dogma. I was raised with, you can't take your helmet off. We get set up in the first episode, the helmet ceremony.
Right.
And I jokingly called it last week Chekhov's helmet ceremony, because guess what? That ceremony wasn't completed. We get that in the first act. That's going to come back and play later. We get that in this episode when Din goes down the steps. He's reciting the creed, and then all of a sudden he gets sucked under the water. He didn't finish reciting the words in order to be redeemed. He's also learning a deconstruction of what he thought to be. So where I think this is headed, and this is kind of one of my bigger theories that I was going to throw out for the show tonight, is in the trailers, we were set up to believe this season is going to be about Din versus Bo. All the stuff we've gotten for that, we've basically seen. Her talking to Grogu, you thought your dad was the only Mandalorian. You thought you're whatever. She has said pretty repetitively, she's not into the sword thing anymore. She's about unity. She's about the fact, it used to be that we all got along. It wasn't always combative. It wasn't always, whatever. They've planted a lot of those seeds of her saying, there used to be a point where we all got along. I'm seeing Chris and Pete both disagree already. She's planting those seeds. Now, whether that's real or not is a different conversation. But also, Din is heading into this place of deconstructing what he thought it was meant to be, the helmet on all the time, the strict adherence to whatever. We've gotten that over the first 2 seasons with the armorer, with, you have to do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
They're both, in my opinion, heading towards a different medium. They're both deconstructing in different ways, but they're both unlearning because she's so uninterested. She's sitting on that throne. She's pissed off. She's angry. Everybody went away. And she says to him, she's like, look, if you wave the sword around, they'll do whatever they tell you to. She's good with it, but it's almost like she's talking about her dad. Her dad was a good man. She's talking about, she's talking about the way it used to be. And it feels like at this point, it's kind of like she's Danny Glover. She's too old for this shit. She's ready to go, look, we used to all be united under one thing, but we fought too much. And Din's learning.
She is older than Grogu.
Right, exactly. So that's where it comes down for me, is they're both in a place of deconstructing old things, old ways they thought, headed towards something new. Do I think they have a romance? Absolutely not. They're work spouses at best.
Yeah. Chris, where were you going with that? You had a you
I as far as not so much on any of the cult stuff. I'm not a religious person, but no, I do see what you guys are saying on that one. But I think they threw us a swerve with Bo-Katan starting out, whereas I was expecting her to be the antagonist for this season, wanting to rule Mandalore and wanting that saber and fighting Din for it. And then when you see her, dejected and just resigned to just sit on that throne, I was like, wow, okay, they're taken out of the picture. But now, at the end of this episode, by the way of incredible what I call mask acting,
yep,
she is her passion has been reignited, I think, and I think she will still be. I don't know about antagonists, but I think that they're all going to be vying for this. I think Din, reluctantly, and the armorer, when she's like more into this story, are going to be vying for that role, and with Bo seeing the mythosaur and everything, yeah, that absolutely brought her back. Maybe not as a believer in whatever religious things or whatnot, but this is bringing her back to, yes, this is what I need to rule Mandalore. And part of me thinks that the mythosaur may have already chosen her. I think, if Din just fell and just sunk to the, that's one thing. If the mythosaur maybe it pulled him down and just left him there, but made eye contact, so to speak, with Bo, it's tough to see where it's going to go.
I think she read the plaque, and the plaque says something to the effect of, the one that tames the great mythosaur is the one that gets to rule. Again, I love to use the Chekhov analogy. We've had Grogu tame a mudhorn. We've had Grogu put a rancor down. It very well could be that we're pointed towards, okay, the mythosaur pops his big ass horned head out of the water, and Grogu does, as Grief Karga says, do the hand thing, and tames the mythosaur, and then all of a sudden we're in Grogu the Destroyer territory right off the bat.
Not yet. Grogu the Tamer, and then it's all going to go to his head.
Okay,
Tamer the Destroyer.
First of all, I will agree with Jasmine. The mythosaur was fantastic. That reveal, Pete tweeted it earlier, the music sting when the eye opens and you realize what it is, like, that moment was outstanding. And it does tie to the mythology of this culture that she's like, hold on, she literally said, I want to give you the full experience. I want to read you the plaque before you do the thing that you think you're supposed to do. And then, sure enough, there's a mythosaur in the damn water. Like, that was huge.
Yeah.
Andy,
if I may.
You may.
Please.
Two things to push back on, Nick. First, I don't see Din reconstructing anything at all. I think he's a true believer, and he wants to be a true believer, because if he's no longer in the clan, why would he keep his helmet on? Like, what is prompting him to still follow the way if he's not a member of the, if he's not even a member within his own tribe?
Honestly, he even says that when he talks about the words. He says, if we don't have the creed, what do we have?
Yeah.
Right. So he's orthodox, right? He's hardcore in some people's eyes. And Bo, we got to remember, like, she's over the sword thing because she never won it. She never had the full support of those that believed in the validity of the sword, because it was never won in combat. And so she's tried to do it with her bloodline, and she's tried to do it with a falsely, according to legend, a falsely gained dark sword, and you can see how easily she moves with that thing. Man,
I was going to say,
it's
the distinction they
beautiful.
set up between him trying to use it and her trying to use it was super intentional, no question.
100%. And yet she has failed on multiple accounts to unite this is where Din has this unique position, because he is a clan, even though the clan's not in good standing with his tribe, at the moment, but he's doing everything he can to gain his position back within his tribe. And when he does that, he'll immediately have standing with anybody that is a loyalist, because he's Mandalorian, and who is a believer in the Darksaber because he won it appropriately. And it already portrayed him, it already foreshadowed him in the first episode as a savior figure. Even though he wasn't even a part of the group, they know him in the Children of the Watch as he's the guy that saved us, and he's the guy who is in our tribe, and he's the guy that has the Darksaber. And so it will then kind of ripple. I feel like it's going to ripple like a William Wallace. One small battle leads to a bigger, and then they gradually swell up. And they needed, if you remember, he needed Robert the Bruce's standing to gain acceptance at the table, and that's Bo-Katan. And whether or not she betrays him or not, we'll see. But she is now working. I think she's going to work with him. She's not going to be the antagonist of this season. We just were supposed to think that because it made sense.
Right. Yeah.
But ultimately, Din is in a position to unite what all these fractured groups have been in different houses, different families, Death Watch, Children of the, like, he can be the one to unite them, not disband everything and start over. Like it would be, to me, more powerful to take different groups, whether you think them extreme or not, and bring them together to go fight the Empire, rather than just say, hey, this is all bullshit, we got to Control Alt Delete everything. Because there's places for these people that could have a purpose.
Like, do you think like we can see, instead of like one person ruling, like this could be like a council, so to speak, or a tribunal, or just something like with the armor, Bo-Katan and Din.
Well, that's how it ended up happening in Rome, right? They went from a Caesar to a republic, and that was supposed to be like an evolution of human thought, right? It's not just one person's word goes, it's now of the people. And maybe that might be a better way to checks and balances, as opposed to one person gets to say. So that's not a bad idea, Chris. Yeah. That's not a bad idea.
Well,
I think he's a uniter, though. I don't think he's a let's just toss everything out. He's a believer in the way. He's doing everything he can to regain his standing in that group, and I don't see him rejecting it. I think that's too much of his identity, and it's okay to question. I think, and if anything, it's okay to question. It's okay to probe, what you're not certain about, and get more information and see if it actually sticks. I think that's natural. I think everybody does it. Yeah. So, and that might just draw you closer to what you originally thought at the end of it, or it can cause change too. You're right. It can cause change, but
yeah, I think there's, and I think that's the cool thing about where we are in the season. And we got all this stuff in the first 2 episodes, as Nick was alluding to before. We all thought we knew what we were getting, and now we've gotten it through 2 episodes, and so who knows where we're going with it. So, but Andy, man, thank you so much for popping in with us tonight. Please come back anytime. And I'm going to be following. I'm glad Holo Chronicles is coming back somewhat regularly. It's so good to see you guys. I don't say it just because I was on network with you and I like you guys. It's human beings. It's such a fun show. If you're a collector at all, you got to check it out. So follow Holo Chronicles wherever you are. And I got to check out Dad Pod.
Yes.
I want to get it right.
Just real quick. The Dad Pod is about fatherhood, parenthood, from childhood to adulthood. Okay, so
got it.
Like it's Sam, Sam. It's Josh and his brothers, and me and my brothers. Hopefully, I tag my brothers in this, and we're gonna share stories about being raised, by our dads and listen to other people talk about their dads. And it's and what it's like being like a parent. Like one of Josh's brothers has 4 daughters. I don't know if anybody on this screen can relate.
That would
and and we've got sons and daughters and everybody, it's just the experiences of dads listening to other dads, and as sons and as fathers, like we're gonna have a conspiracy theory, which is I feel like it's a very dad conversation. We're gonna talk about that one time when we almost killed our kids. The maddest my dad was ever at me. We've got tons of topics that we hope to do it maybe once or twice a month, but it's got its own channel and all that.
That's awesome.
It's like it
Very cool.
It could be fun. Yeah,
crazy to think that there's other podcasts that aren't Star Wars out there. That's such a weird idea.
Yes, yeah.
And what a concept.
It's going to be something else, maybe, yeah, maybe we'll, get more than 100 views. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe people want to listen about dad stuff, and
awesome.
And we'll definitely have other guest dads on. So check your emails regularly.
Awesome.
Nice.
Well, Andy, thank you so much. We're going to take a real quick break, and when we come back, we're going to have one more caller, and we're going to continue the conversation on Bad Batch and Mandalorian. Andy, thank you so much for joining us. See you soon.
It's good to see you guys.
Take care.
See you, buddy.
This is the way.
In 1977, Star Wars exploded onto screens, changing movies and people forever. Today, the first generation of Star Wars kids are now the prime demographic. But it's not always easy for Generation X to find their voice online. Millennials and Generation Z produce the majority of user-generated content, and the algorithm leads too easily to toxic YouTubers with a less than inclusive agenda. We all need a place to relive what it is we love about the galaxy far, far away without the negativity of clickbait or the shouting voices of the would-be influencers. That place is the SSW Network, a hub of content created by people who love the saga that's inclusive, upbeat, and real, with programs that encourage them to stay connected to those childhood memories and make new ones with the people they love. A place to hear from and connect with new and classic creators, celebrities, authors, and superfans. The SSW Network keeps the conversation going about new and original content and remembers what it means to be a Star Wars fan. The SSW Network. Every generation has a story.
Well, welcome
Can I just say real quick how these videos look great? I don't get to say that often because I don't get to see them.
You don't usually get to see them.
Yeah, but these videos look great.
I'm glad you're enjoying them, Chris. I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
I hope it continues.
It's nice that Pete's hard work could finally pay off for you.
Exactly. And it was great to hear also from Andy. We've had some great calls, some great ideas. We're going to take one more call tonight as we're coming toward the end of our program for the evening. He's a regular. He's a friend of the show. Let's bring him in.
Hello.
Oh, D-Generation X-Wing?
Yes. Hey,
Yes,
there we go. Fellow Jersey
guy
boy.
gets it.
Brian,
That's
what's going on, man? How's it going,
Nothing
dude?
much. I'm doing great. How about y'all?
Excellent.
Nothing
You
to
know,
complain about.
it's been a week. It definitely has.
That it has. What's been your favorite thing that we've seen?
So, I loved Mando this week.
Yep.
There's no topping Bad Batch this week, but being last, everything's been said. So, I have my notes here. Half I just threw out because of what Chris just said and some stuff that Andy said. So we're just gonna wing it now.
Just go for it.
I'm looking. I see it.
Yeah. But
Go ahead,
here
Brian.
we go. One of the things that I really loved about this episode, it really came into almost like an evolution of Bo, because you looked at her in the episode before, and she was like my sulking 13-year-old. Which now he comes back. She's still sulking 13-year-old, stomping her feet.
Right.
But then when Grogu comes back, it's almost like, crap, I sent him there. Grogu, the kid came back, which means you have to think in her head, she's thinking, crap, you can go there because he's there.
Right.
And the kid's saying that he needs help.
For
So
sure.
it's almost like she only went there because now it's been proved that you can.
Hmm.
But she's also going to help the guy who kind of sacrificed himself to find that out. And maybe because she doesn't want a certain object that proclaims someone, whoever holds the ruler of Mandalore, to be lost again. So there may be something to that.
So where do you come in on her being re-inspired, if you think that's what she did?
It was really the re-inspiration is, she's going through all the story about how, I took the creed, I didn't mess it up. I put the helmet on. It made my dad happy.
Right.
And then when he gets there, she's too busy going off and reading the plaque about the backstory, that she forgets to tell him about the ledge, that there's only one more step, and then don't go too much farther because you're going to fall.
Right.
And literally, she's too much into not paying attention that she forgets to warn him. And that's pretty much that was my thing on why she jumped right in and started rocketing down to help him, because obviously some Beskar, some really dense stuff. And if anyone, I have a swimming pool, any piece of metal goes in there, it shoots straight down.
Right. Right.
And then it was kind of when she's picking him up and getting him up, and she sees, what we all know she saw.
Yeah.
Then we all pointed at the screen and went, oh, whoa. And I think after now you're going to see a completely different Bo, almost like like we saw in that arc of Rebels.
Yeah.
Where she is going to be, I am back in this. We are going to reclaim it. And she is now going to be all in.
Yeah. Do you think she's going to try to get the Darksaber from Din, or do you think she's going to try to figure out a way to do it together?
I think she's going to find a way to have him do it. She's going to be, I think she's going, not use in a bad way, but she's going to use him to kind of unite the clans.
So based on what we were just talking about with Andy as well, I wonder if that means she's got to talk him out of his extremism.
See, I don't know, because here's the thing. The one thing, only after that first time when Din and Bo meet, where he was like completely shocked when they removed their helmets.
Right.
He's now met other Mandalorians that removed their helmets, whether it be, Din and Casca, and then, Boba Fett.
Yep.
So, but after that initial meeting, he never questioned anyone else.
Yeah.
So my feeling on Din is, yes, he is, as Andy said, he is that strict ultra orthodox, but he is not going to say those are his beliefs.
Right.
But his beliefs don't have to be everyone's beliefs.
Right.
Right.
So as long as everyone, follows what they believe or their version of the creed. That's my theory on that.
I'd buy that. Cool.
That's a way that I could finally actually see them working that in.
Yeah. Like if it's a group of rulers, I guess for whatever's going to happen next for Mandalore, maybe Din has the saber,
the sabre,
and the Daric sabre. You have armor and what she believes in her extreme, religion. Then you have someone, maybe Grogu tames, the mythosaur, or maybe it's Bo, who knows? But all these different factors come together so not like I was saying before, it's not like one person is going to rule Mandalore, but it's going to be this group of people who, bring back this bring Mandalore back to prominence. I'd love to see that instead of like being like one person, be like the one.
Absolutely. Let the armor be like the religious leader, and let Din or Bo be the, layperson, political, whatever, monarchist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. She's got the royalty experience.
Yeah.
So
she's got the lineage. He's got the sword.
Yeah.
Yep.
I guess a last question for you, Brian, would be: do you see this arc wrapping in the next episode, and we go on to something completely different? Do you think the next episode is, sort of an in between, and they sort of take us away from the story? Where do you think this Wednesday we're going to go?
My feeling, it's going to be them having this discussion, coming up with a plan as they're leaving the mine to go find Bo's old people who are now out mercenarying, and bringing them back and pretty much saying, "Hey, you need to see what we found."
I like that.
Yeah,
And there may be a giant snake T-Rex that pops out of some water in the meanwhile.
I can't wait to see what the mythosaur looks like.
Yeah, I don't know
in all its glory, because it's coming out of the water. It's not. It's coming out.
Yeah.
Chekhov's mythosaur. Is that what's next?
That's where we're at. Yes.
I'll beat that trope into the ground. I don't care.
Yeah, we'll keep following you. We'll follow you there.
Absolutely.
I'll allow it. Thank you so much for hanging. Thanks for coming on board as you do every week, and or just about every week you're around. But great to see you, dude. And
thank you, guys.
We'll talk to you again soon.
All right, dudes.
See you, buddy.
Take you later.
See you.
Bye.
Bye. Well, Nick and Chris, if you guys are good with it, I think we got time for one more caller.
We definitely do.
We got somebody who I think a lot of our friends and followers know. So let's bring him in.
Goodness gracious me. Anka, pinky.
There he is, the man, the myth, the legend, Darth Chaco. How are you, man?
What's up, man?
I'm good. I'm an absolute idiot. I'm sorry. I joined the wrong. Okay, I use a software where we have the same room all the time, so it's like static.
Yep.
And since before Nate joined, I've been like sitting in the room.
And it was like this room.
I feel like Loki. Like I've been bowling for 30 minutes.
Well, and when you said that in the chat, you were like, "I've been here for a long time." I'm like, "You're not here. I don't know what to tell you."
I love it.
But you're here now, and that's all that matters.
And I know you probably want to end soon and all this stuff.
That's right.
So couple things. First and foremost, I noticed that there are less likes on this video on YouTube than there are viewers. So everyone give this a like. And then also I just want to, if you don't mind, I want to do a quick lightning round because I've been watching for a long time.
Yes, please.
So
Yeah,
I've been like,
let's do it.
Come
it's a
on,
great way.
Bring it.
Okay, so I was super happy when I hopped in because you guys were talking Bad Batch, and I love the episode. Hemlock is the wish.com Thrawn. Hemlock is when your mom says, "We have Thrawn at home," and you're like,
we have Thrawn at Mount Tantus.
Exactly. Love that.
Now, him calling them a property, you said was like Mace Windu saying citizen, and I have to vehemently disagree because because Ahsoka called herself a citizen, and like so 10,000 foot view, this person leaves your organization, right? You give her Republic troops to help her organize a coup of a neutral system while your chancellor has just been taken. Like the stuff they gave Ahsoka is ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like an absolute neutral system trying to depose their rightfully elected ruler that they fought you for their right to elect their own rulers this way, and you're gonna depose that person.
But here's where I'm gonna push back. I rewatched No Time to Die this week, and James Bond has retired and he's off the grid. He starts working with the FBI or the CIA. He has his moment with Felix, R.I.P. Felix Leiter, the whole deal. But it's also that moment of like, but we know her. She's one of us. She's our person. And the way Mace treated her has never sat well with me. Like that we know who Ahsoka is. We know her character, the person that she was, the raw deal that she got through that whole arc. When she chose to leave, it always has hit me very deeply. So I'm off on Mace, but I also respect your position and where you're coming from.
Oh, I get that. I just want you to consider, like, Mace doesn't even interact with him very often. So like he doesn't even what you know about Ahsoka, he doesn't know. You know more than he does. Anyways,
right, fair.
Moving forward, I think Omega plus Grogu equals Snoke if you cook it in a Palpatine base. You know what I mean?
Ooh.
Like, Omega ends up being this template that there is years and years and years of study on how to modify and affect this specific genome and do all these things. Omega is currently the purest form of the original project that they had, but they also are trying to inject force sensitivity, and they also need it to be compatible with Palpatine.
So do you think Omega has any force sensitivity?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't. But I do
That's
think
what
she's just a badass at everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you were to play Mario 2, like she's like Mario, where she's good at everything.
Yep.
She can't jump as high as Luigi. She can't float like Peach. You can't, you know what I mean? Like Toad's ground speed. She's just like, she's
most balanced,
good
got it all.
at everything, well-rounded. And then that's, you know what I mean? And then, so there's all right.
Mario
so there's
2.
that.
Let's not overlook what a good reference that is. By the way.
Yeah, I'm one of y'all old heads. Another thing, because we're getting Thrawn involved, we got Mount Tantus involved. A lot of people are thinking that this is related to the Thrawn trilogy by Timothy Zahn. Love Timothy Zahn, love that trilogy. I've read tons and tons of expanded universe books. I'm going to argue and say I think it's related to the Thrawn duology. Specters of the past, visions of the future. Spoiler alert, if you guys don't want to hear anything about this, cover your ears for like 15 seconds. But there seems to be a second coming of Thrawn, someone who has that potential. It turns out it's a clone of someone that they threw some Thrawn spice in on, and that would like really be fitting for this as well as fitting for the canon Thrawn books, because Thrawn is not actually aligned with the Empire. They're just kind of his best bet at this moment, and so I personally can't see a world where he supports the Empire after Palpatine's dead, because it would be super inconsistent with Thrawn's character. However, the Thrawn duology would be them capturing some of his genome to use later for that intuition, and that's part of the Thrawn duology. Yeah.
So I just want to throw this out there real quick, and I kind of teased it on Twitter earlier today. I teased it to Pete and Chris in a text message. I feel like I'm developing as certainly like you, a lover of that old year Heir to the Empire trilogy, like that whole thing. In that trilogy, Thrawn was hiding in a mall cluster, developing the Dreadnought fleet, all the the other technology, the secret Palpatine projects, the Dark Fleet. In this episode, we get Mandalore. All the rumors about Mandalore is it's uninhabitable. It's been destroyed. There's a fake cloud there. There's a thing where they're hiding something under that surface. You get through the crappy storm. You get through the whatever. He lands. He goes, oh, the air is breathable. It is whatever. What if we're heading toward a thing where the live action version of Thrawn is, what if the First Order, if Palpatine's final order is being developed in mind and built on Mandalore? We know we get a shot in the trailer that we haven't seen yet of some sort of shipyard, of some sort of something being built. What if the Thrawn tie-in is, instead of it being inside of a black hole mall cluster like it was in the old EU books, Thrawn has been hiding out somewhere helping develop Palpatine's final order, it connects to the cloning, it connects to all these other little things, and maybe they're doing it on Mandalore, a planet that they've told everybody is uninhabitable. The same way in those books they said that the Nagari planet was, they couldn't grow anything there. The Empire robots were planting salt and seed and ruining the crops in order to keep the Nagari under control. Like, I see those little, you know, big picture drawing it together that also still points us towards Ahsoka and that series as well. That's my kind of wild EU tie-in theory.
I like it.
Yeah, I do like. I still. I mean, I honestly can't see Thrawn supporting the Empire past Palpatine's death. Personally,
Sure.
and I'll probably be proven wrong. See, I mean, I'm very willing to be wrong on everything I say, although I've been right on just about everything, including the mythosaur.
I've never been right about anything, so I'm just taking big swings. It doesn't matter.
And also, when they entered Mandalore's atmosphere and said we couldn't communicate outward, I thought that was a red herring instantly.
For sure.
I was like, that's not natural.
Right.
So that's one. Number two, unless you destroy the planet, people not being able to live on the planet does not destroy the planet. The planet will get better. The planet does not care if you're there or not.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Like when we talk about humans on Earth, Earth will be fine. We might have to wait
Life
a few
finds a
million
way, baby.
years. You know what I mean? Exactly. So, if anything, what the Mandalorians were doing to the planet was probably more harmful than anything else. And just like in Endgame, they're like, I saw whales in the New York River, or whatever river that is. That's not that river's not a swim. That's a sewage river. You know what I mean? That's like a so I think removing the people has actually healed that planet more than anything else. And my prediction is that that planet has a force nexus on it, and it's specifically a light side nexus, because we do have light and dark nexuses. But yeah, I believe that planet has a light side nexus on it, and that's why Grogu will be the one to tame the mythosaur, and he will be the ruler of Mandalore. He's the Mandalorian that is referred to by the title. And all of this is a vague allusion to Judaism, and they're the 12 tribes, and the children of the watch are the Levites, and that Din is Moses, and he's going to lead everyone to the promised land, but he's not going to be able to enter it himself. Grogu's going to have to take from there. Whole thing. All right. I'm still going through my list. I'm sorry. I hope I'm going fast enough.
Does Grogu the Destroyer work into what you were just talking about? I just want to make sure that you see what I'm saying.
Chris is waiting for Grogu's heel turn.
Well, first of all, Grogu has no
Sasuke
problem
of Star
eating.
Wars.
Sasuke implies that he never wins a goddamn fight.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
he gets his ass beat all day, every day. So I'm a huge Naruto and anime fan myself. But, so the Mandalorian systems have over 1,000 planets. It's going to take a long time, and the reason we have houses and clans is because of planets being conquered. There's a reason why the Wren family comes from Coronest, right? That was a planet that was conquered, and those people were the regents of that planet, right? That's kind of how it works. And I think Grogu, by the time of the sequels, is still in that project, right? Because I mean, he'd be like a teenager then, you know what I mean?
Right.
Now, I am surprised at how wildly accelerated The Mandalorian has been, because the last episode would have been a 3-episode arc in the first season.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like,
which tells me there's a lot. Like, they're trying to do a lot in this season.
They got some place to go here.
Yep.
Yeah, they got to hit a whole bunch of points. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're writing a lot of stuff, and there's going to be a lot of stuff tying in together. We're going to get some type of Avengers level thing.
Yep.
That's what I think. Also, so I'll hurry up.
Take your time. It's all right.
I don't think Cody ran. I think Cody is part of Mount Tantus, and he was taken. And I think any clone that was on the verge of leaving like that, I think they would send Crosshair on a mission and use him as a barometer, and then they would take him and do experiments on them in Mount Tantus. And I think that's something similar happened to the assassin clone that we got in one of the previous episodes. Also, I hate a lot of the discourse surrounding the Bad Batch, because I feel like people are expecting Clone Wars Season 8, and the Bad Batch is a show about a group, the Bad Batch,
correct,
and their newest member, Omega, surviving in a galaxy post Order 66. So if they're on a planet like exploring ruins and uncovering an ancient machine, that's not filler. That is the plot of the
That's what she
show.
does. That's right. Yep.
And the stuff that brings in Clone Wars elements and characters you love, that's actually the filler. But I digress with that.
Let me ask you a question that I asked Alex Damon when Nick and I were on their Clone Wars or their Clone Zone show. Do you think there's a third season of Bad Batch, or do you think it ends in 3 weeks?
We need a third season. We're not going to be able to wrap up what happens to Omega. Either there's a third season or
a new show
that is a spiritual successor for this. But we're not going to be able to wrap up everything going on with Crosshair, as well as set up. I mean, also the sad truth is all these clones are aging twice as fast as Omega.
Right.
She's already older than everyone else in the batch.
Yep.
And basically, the next series is just going to be actually called Scar Squadron, right, Chris?
I love Scar Squadron. Okay, I was addicted to them. I was in the room when Dave Filoni was talking about the Bad Batch in 2015 at Star Wars Celebration, the stuff he didn't get to do, and that's what I saw popping up in Scar Squadron. Chris, I'm sorry that I didn't respond to your email in time to. I do want to collaborate. I'm so sorry.
Oh, yeah.
That's a new email address because Instagram deleted my old account. Just deleted it and wouldn't give it back to me, and so I created a new one.
Yeah, we'll get it together. We'll get it together. We'll talk about Scar Squadron and how they're going to be the next thing. Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Oh yeah, I am. Yeah. I am a canon junkie of all things. I also want to say that I don't think I feel like part of the later conversation about. Actually, no. This is kind of a non sequitur, but we talked about a Rey clone Megazord thing, and I lost it because I'm always trying to figure out. Oh yeah. But like, do you remember the game QWOP?
No.
QUOP. It's the game where you're running, and like Q and W are like the right and left thighs, and O and P are like the shins, and you have to like try and run a race. Oh. That's how I picture Megazord working, and it doesn't work. How does?
Well, I just mean she's gonna grow to like Megazord size or something like that. You know, like Rita's gonna make it grow.
That's so funny.
I also think a question I had is, will Din actually need training to wield the Darksaber? Right, it's extremely heavy for him because of how conflicted he was. At the beginning of Sabine's story with the Darksaber, Trials of the Darksaber, she had trouble wielding it. She remarked about how heavy it was, but she said, "I know how to use a sword."
Right.
She couldn't wield it properly until she processed her emotion. Right, there is her beliefs, her emotions, her past. She had to come to terms with it, and only then could she wield it.
Yep.
Bo-Katan wielded it like a friggin' boss.
Like a boss.
It was awesome.
Yep.
But look at Din. You know what I mean? He cut him when he hit his own leg. He wasn't ready then, but now he's bathed himself in the waters of Lake Minnetonka. I appreciate you.
Yep.
so he did that. The sighting of the mythosaur confirms a lot of the beliefs that he's carried.
Right.
That were just faith before, but now they have something behind them. He is no longer conflicted about whether or not to keep Grogu. Right? That whole thing has been resolved. All of his issues have been resolved, and I wouldn't be surprised if he goes back and they accept him back into his clan, and at that point he can just wield it. You know what I mean? I mean, he's
Well,
had no problem wielding any other weapons ever.
It's interesting
So-
because there's that one clip in the preview or the trailer where he is walking out of the cave among them all, right?
Yeah.
So at some point they must accept him, right? And the question, I guess, then is, now that we've kind of had the discussion here, is what have they accepted him as? And there's also a great, we talked a little bit before about the opportunity to tell a story about fanaticism and the negative side of fanaticism, etc. There's also a question of faith, right? Because there is this, there's always been the mythosaur has the word myth in its name. It is the mythical creature, but now they saw it. And so what does that do? Right. So what does that do? What does that do to faith, right? If you're, if you have faith in your religion and then you see it, what does that do to a person? That's an interesting
dude. Like
concept.
if I was like got sucked down into a lake and then on the way back up I saw Jesus,
right? You'd be like, I'm all in. Here's all my chips. I got it.
Shit's gonna change.
Well, I was wrong.
No, but I think, and that's what I was most interested in the last conversation, the last two, is because I don't think this is leading to a narrative that belief or religion itself is wrong. We have Bo-Katan, who is lost and listless and has tried everything that she knows how to do in order to reclaim Mandalore, which, by the way, say Satine's name in the show. God damn it.
God, yeah, I was waiting
just
so
say her name.
close.
Just say her name.
Close. Yep.
But even from the way she spoke about it, it felt like even as a child from the ruling class, she knew that they were not ruling this in any sort of religious or belief way. This was a way to control the masses. And she's reciting these words. They have no imprint on her heart, or she doesn't believe or anything like that. Right. That's not to say that everything that Din believes is correct, but there's something in between the two. And that's why I believe this is a Force Nexus. And I think that only a Force sensitive being would be able to interact with it in the way. And I feel like Mandalore itself was probably founded by someone who was Force sensitive and set up these belief systems. And people started following the what and not necessarily the why. And that's why we ended up splitting off in so many different ways. After the fact, Din's the whole thing of not taking off your helmet. I struggle. I mean, I know a lot of people look at this as like, this is, it's a cult and it's harmful. This is, I hate using that word improperly, because using it improperly helps cults get away with it. I'm good friends with Shayla Rand, who has a lot of interesting content on that matter. Check her out. But I think that their belief system kept them safe from these outside sources in a way that was probably overly, it was probably too much.
Right.
And I hopefully want to explore that, because I think there is a conversation to be had there. And I think that people, especially, kids, I think a lot of Star Wars fans learned how to interpret their own faith from watching like the Clone Wars and stuff like that, which is why we ended up with weird things and unnecessary Mace Windu hate, but whatever.
Different topic, different night. We don't have to go there.
But yeah, I think there is a deeper conversation to have. I don't think Din is an example of extremism, but them doing that kept them separate and kept them safe. in order for them to be able to reclaim their planet in the first place. And I don't think we can just straight up discount that.
That's fair.
And with that, I have largely caught up. I have more notes. I want to let you guys have your nights.
Well, no, but
sorry for
Chaka,
joining late with all this stuff.
No worries, man.
Oh,
And
man,
you're welcome to join us anytime you want to
Yeah,
come
man.
on a Friday night. And I do have to say your TikToks are like they inspire me. And you've been doing this thing lately where you're answering questions from people, and that's a really cool. It's a cool feature. So follow Chaco on TikTok, on Twitter. Where else are you? That's the main places where to find you, right?
Those are the main places. I keep trying to do a lot more on YouTube, and I have plans to. But depression is real, so we working on it. But we'll get there. I eventually want to do coverage of. There's a lot of amazing canon comics that don't get the love that they deserve because there's a lot of amazing Legends comics that already got the love. So I want to give love to both.
Well, awesome. Well, Chaco, thank you so much for hanging out with us. I loved your perspective as always, and we'll have you back on anytime you want to. The door is always open to you, my friend.
Yeah, man.
All right. Thank you for letting me join.
Good to
you
see
guys
ya.
have a great night.
Thanks for hanging out. May the
We'll
force be
talk
with
soon,
you.
bro.
All right. Look forward to it.
Well, there's a couple podcasts that I listen to regularly, and every one of them is like, I don't know how we're going to manage talking Mando and Bad Batch, and I don't know how we're going to manage talking Mando and Bad Batch every week, especially if they're going to be good episodes. I mean, for goodness sake, could you just throw us a bone, give us a crappy one of the two, so we could just like so into it. But no, I think this week has been, geez, again, can't complain about any of this stuff. I mean, there's
people find a way to.
Yeah, this is true. This is true. And thankfully they do. So I get 50,000 views on a TikTok video. No plan to get anything.
I'm not gonna lie, the moment about it being dark in a cave slayed me early this week.
I mean, yeah. Have you been in a mine anytime?
Why is it not well lit in this place that is so very much underground?
This makes no sense to me.
Yeah, come on.
Well, before we wrap up, Chris, let us know what's happening in the world of Bro Axiom this week, man.
Sure.
I'm playing with
little
this
little vibe
music to close us out here. I don't know if I like this one, but I'm trying different ones.
I like it. So this Sunday we've got Shooting the Voodoo. We're gonna be talking about the guys are gonna be talking about The Last of Us and of course Bad Batch and Mando. Next week,
are they going to run during The Last of Us like they do every week? So I don't watch them because I watch The Last of Us.
Yeah, and then run immediately afterwards to watch the show. Yeah.
Okay.
We've got a couple comics coming out. We have the High Republic Adventures coming out. We've got what's the other one that's coming out this week? I'm so bad right now with the comics.
Do you even read comics, bro?
But yeah. Yoda #5 is coming out as well. And
how is the Yoda
the last one of that series? It's good. It was a couple episodes. I was like, but it's Star Wars, so I'm like, I dig it. I'm a shill.
Yoda #5 could also be like a cologne that we're expected to buy as nerds
with this music in the background.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yoda
we got
#5.
Yoda #5. We got that. We just had an episode of the Nice Guys podcast from last week.
Love it.
We were talking about Heavy Metal, the 1981
Heavy Metal
animated movie. Love that movie.
Yeah.
So we got that. It's gonna be a new episode of the Dandalorian. I can't wait. We have a new format for that. So Dan knocks it out in about a minute, and we put the things out. He's talking about his favorite top 3 moments from each episode. I don't envy him, but trying to find any top 3 moments from this episode alone, because the whole thing is fantastic.
Yeah.
The Star Bros have a new episode coming out next week, and that's oh, and of course Braxium Gaming with Dan and Roke. They're going to be talking. I mean, they're going to be playing. I think maybe Dead Space still. I think they're still playing that.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So on Around the Galaxy this Thursday, you're going to get what are you going to get this Thursday? You're going to get I had an opportunity to sit down with Martin Keeler and Mark, the bass player from the band Ash. They're doing a huge fun party at Star Wars Celebration in London, which unfortunately none of us will be at, but they told us all about it, and we also talked a little bit about their Star Wars journey, which was a lot of fun. And speaking of London, Star Wars Celebration is happening in London in just a couple weeks. We will not be there, but we will pretend to be there, and we will be talking about it. We have Becca Benjamin and Mark Suter from Tarkin's Top Shelf. We also have the three of us, and I can't announce it yet, but there's a real celebrity name who wants to join us for at least one, maybe as many as 3 or 4 of the episodes. So we'll share that with you when we can. And we're gonna do a similar format here. We're gonna want to talk about what we're hearing coming out of Celebration. I'm not as sure as I was before about a movie announcement, but I've said it, I'm gonna stick with it. I'm going with it. So so make sure to join us live at 9:00 on April 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th. And we're gonna be talking about everything coming out of Star Wars Celebration. Nick, is there anything that I forgot?
I think you pretty much covered it. StreamingStarWars.com finds all the things everywhere we are, what we do. And just to throw one more cap on it, yesterday we dropped our episode with Details.
Right.
If you don't know D, he played robots, droids, aliens in Rogue One, in Solo, in Rise, I think. Anyhow, was originally going to be K2SO before they realized that role was going to be bigger, and they changed it up. Super fun story, super fun conversation. He was in Willow. He's done so much acting, so much character work in costumes and this performance capture thing that we talked about with Deborah Wilson a few weeks ago. Really, really fun interview. Huge Star Wars fan, came to Star Wars because of the Muppets. The audio version of that interview dropped yesterday in our podcast stream. You can get that. Look up Around the Galaxy everywhere you get podcasts. Would love for you to check out that conversation and see what he has to say. I also know he lives in the UK. He lives in London. He's been tagged in some of the events that are going to be happening during Celebration and all that kind of stuff. So super cool guy. Loved getting the chance to sit down and talk to him, and I'd love for everybody to check that out.
Excellent. Yes, go check it out. It's a very fun episode. And hey, also everybody who's been hanging out with us, thank you so much. You stuck through one of our longest episodes, and we really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody who called in. Thank you to everybody who listened. And if you're listening on the replay on Monday, whoops, I don't know what happened there. We've given you listening to on your way to work and on your way home from work. So thank you very much for hanging out with us. Nick, may the Force be with you.
Always.
Just one more round, friend, then homeward bound, friend. Don't forget me in your dreams. Just one more song, friend, and then so long, friend. The nights get shorter, it seems. Just one more rhyme, friend. Yes, it's a crime, friend. But you know time, friend. Time can fly. So it's good night, friend. Good night, but not goodbye.